This source gives insight to the motives and emotions of black citizens in Montgomery, Alabama in 1956. The Supreme Court's decision was catalyzed by the month-long bus boycott by black citizens in Montgomery. The drive of authors Reverend MLK and Reverend W.J. Powell were to call attention to the conduct of black Montgomery citizens during the transition of desegregated bus systems. The source can be categorized as biased because it is an informational flyer offering advice specifically to African Americans. This source comes directly from the Montgomery Improvement Association, which started as a grassroots movement for civil rights during the mid-1900s. The flyer is positive about integration, but advises vigilance regarding future interaction on desegregated buses. The authors advise the black community as a whole to avoid engaging in confrontation. Instead, they plea for nonviolence. The authors note, if you feel you cannot take it, walk another week or two. We have to have confidence in our people. The use of the phrase our people creates a feelings of camaraderie and familiar feel across the entire black community. Utilizing us versus them phrasing strengthens the argument that African Americans must compose themselves with the highest moral and social etiquette. Having a high moral ground was needed for the progression and conservation of civil rights. The author's suggestions appeal to the reader to strive to be on a moral high ground. The authors also use faith to appeal to the reader. As reference, the authors advise the readers to uphold one another by glance or prayer. The authors further their desire for nonviolence by encouraging blacks to pray for the oppressor and use moral and spiritual forces to carry on the struggle for justice. The authors strengthen their argument by proposing that in order to achieve justice, African Americans must refrain from violence. This argument appeals to readers who care about upholding justice. The structure of the document highlights the author's message in clear points. The style of flyer, italicizing words like whole and all, puts further emphasis on the idea that the actions of one affect many. The repetition of religious terms like pray and the use of the word love invoke an emotional component to the argument. The use of religion is especially effective to Christian readers because it appeals to their religious views. Repetition, style, and diction are key elements that serve to highlight the moral righteousness of the author's argument. The author's tone is predominantly optimistic. The first general suggestion advises that not all white people are opposed to integrated buses, except goodwill on the part of many. The optimistic outlook reassures the reader that there is not total opposition to integration. The document again cautions the reader to avoid any violence. Readers are advised that if cursed, do not curse back. If pushed, do not push back. If struck, do not strike back. The shift between optimistic and directly cautionary tones emphasize that the black community should be proud of their accomplishment, but they must be on guard. The author's argument draws to an end with a blessing. The last line of the flyer states, "God bless you all." This is a blanketed statement to anyone who reads this flyer, including whites. All suggestions in the flyer present the black community of Montgomery as peaceful and avid adherents of the law. This portrayal of the black community is used to appeal to non-black readers who may oppose integration. Offering a look at the respectful motives behind the transition into integration could sway hateful minds who oppose integration. This source is biased because it was written as a conduct suggestion specifically to black citizens of Montgomery. This source was written by black reverends, so the message is crafted around Christian morals. The authors do not take into account advice for white members of the community, but instead speak directly to blacks. The document is historically significant because it gives insight to the feelings and social cautions of the African American community during the civil rights movement. The source is also significant because the Montgomery Integration Association was a grassroots movement for social and legal equality in the United States. One of the key figures in the civil rights movement was Reverend Martin Luther King, who co-authored this flyer that rotated Montgomery during December of 1956.